Okay, this is how to find the difference quotient in general for any function. First thing that you want to do is start off by evaluating f of x plus h. All I need to do is everywhere I used to see an x in my original function, it now needs to be replaced by x plus h. So what I'm going to do to make this easier to notice is I'm going to highlight that red. And everywhere I used to see an x, so before the numerator was 7x, instead of x, I'm going to write x plus h. On the denominator, it used to be x plus 8. Now it's going to be x plus h plus 8. So the first thing I did was I substituted out my x for x plus h. Now I'm going to simplify this. So I'm going to distribute the 7 on the top, distribute it into the parentheses to get 7x plus 7h. And there's nothing to be done on the bottom except for maybe remove the parentheses. So I'm going to make this x plus h plus 8. Okay, now what I want to do is start plugging in my pieces into the difference quotient. This is going to look horrendous. It's probably going to take multiple lines of paper. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. This genuinely is just awful. Okay, so now what I want to do is plug in my f of x plus h because that's what it tells me should come first. So here's my f of x plus h. I just found it. And now I need to subtract the whole quantity f of x. This is what I started with, so I'm going to make it easy on myself and just copy paste. But real quick, let's take a minute to make sure that all the pieces line up. So here's my f of x plus h right there. I need to subtract the whole quantity f of x over here. And now everything needs to be divided by h, which is what I've done. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is simplify this down a little bit. Now this is generally where the hard part is. This is the difficulty. Depending on the starting equation, depending on your f, this may be easier or harder. This is one of the harder ones, I'm going to be real. So what I want to do, first off, to maybe make this a little easier on myself, instead of big division bar with an h on the bottom, I'm going to rewrite this as 1 over h, and then just keep the top. Kind of like this. So this is a continuation of the previous line. So I would put it, for example, over here, like tack it onto the end, but this is going to get long really fast. So to save myself some space, I'm going to write it vertically. All right, but this is what I've got now. The next thing I want to do is find a way to combine these two fractions together. I can't do that right now because I don't have the same denominator. So I need to make them have a common denominator. This is the part that's annoying. The bottom over here, this orange denominator, I need to multiply this by x plus 8 over here. And I need to do this on the top and bottom, so that way I'm not changing my fraction. Whoops, let's do this. Similarly, the other fraction needs x plus h plus 8 in order to be equivalent. Oh, I took the parentheses with it. I didn't need to do that. Okay, and this is why I said this is one of the tougher ones, because this looks absolutely atrocious. It looks like letter and number vomit. That's okay, we'll get through it. So for right now, I'm going to leave the denominators untouched, but what I am going to do is multiply together the tops. So remember your FOIL. You have to distribute the 7x to the x, 7x to the 8, 7h to the x, and 7h to the 8. So this numerator is instead going to become 7x squared plus 56x plus 7hx plus 56h. Right, so this is 7x times the x. 56 comes from 7x times the 8. This next term comes from 7h times the x. And this last term comes from 7h times the 8. I'm going to do the same thing over here, except it's easier because I can just distribute this 7x inside the parentheses to each of them. So this one's going to become 7x squared plus 7xh plus 56x. And I don't need this anymore. Okay, at this point, I'm going to get rid of the color coding because it's no longer helpful. So this is what we've got. I'm going to also recolor code this in just a second. So this is me multiplying together the tops. All right, and now what I finally want to do is actually subtract the fractions. So be careful when I minus this whole fraction over here, this minus really gets distributed to every little piece on the top. So this is going to end up being minus 7x squared minus 7xh minus 56x, and I don't need this fraction anymore. Okay, now that I've done that, you should start to see some nice things happening. So what I mean by that is take a look at this 7x squared over here. I'm going to color code this red. Actually, you know, I used red earlier, so I'm going to color code it purple. You'll notice later on over here, I'm subtracting 7x squared. If I rearrange these terms, I'm going to get 7x squared minus 7x squared. Those things cancel each other out. Similarly, if I take a look at this plus 56 over here, I'm going to color code it blue. I end up subtracting the 56x over here. Same thing over here with this one. I see 7hx and minus 7xh. These things are the same thing because remember, you can multiply in any order, so those things cancel each other out. Let's see, I'm running out of colors here. Yeah, I'll use red. I kind of have to reuse it. But these things cancel out as well. This is what lets you know you're on the right track. You should start to see a whole bunch of things canceling out from the numerator or just canceling out in general. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel those things out. You can draw your little strike throughs like this. I know some people like to do that, right? But these things cancel each other out. So in the end, what I'm left with is, once I delete everything that cancels itself out, this is what I have. Okay, and one last thing, I can finally now multiply these two things together. I could have done that earlier, but I chose to leave it out on the outside because I was already dealing with enough on the inside. So I didn't want to make more of a mess for myself. So this is me multiplying them together, and you'll notice that I have the same thing. I have an h on the top and an h on the bottom. So these two things cancel out. And this is another code that lets you know you're on the right track. This is what you want to see. You want to see an h on the top cancel with an h on the bottom. That's what lets you know you're on the right track. And this is going to be your final difference quotient. These things range in difficulty from really easy to really hard, and this is on the end of pretty hard. So if you struggle with this, rewatch this video, take it a little bit slower, follow all the steps as best you can. And of course, if you're confused, just come visit me in office hours. I'll be more than happy to go through examples like this in more detail.